I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped into the museum that night. Maybe it was the silence under all the talking. Maybe it was the way the chandeliers glowed too bright above us, like they were trying to hide something in their light. Or maybe it was the little girl sitting alone on the polished floor, drawing strangers with a focus most adults never had. Her name was Emma. I didn't know that yet. I didn't know how much she was about to change my life. I came to the gala because the museum director begged me to attend, hoping a big name like mine would help the fundraiser. People whispered my name everywhere I went. Victor Marchese. They called me cold, calculated, a man with too much power and too many enemies. Maybe all of that was true once. But tonight, none of it mattered. I was only here because my daughter wanted to see the paintings. Her small hand held mine as we walked through the gallery, her voice soft with excitement. She pointed at the sculptures the way other kids pointed at candy. For a few minutes, I let myself feel normal, just a father taking his daughter to a museum. But normal never stayed long in my world. Across the room, a woman caught my eye. She moved through the crowd with a tablet in her hand, checking on the students in the educational program. She wasn't wearing anything fancy like the other women in glittering gowns. Her dress was simple, her smile honest. Her name, I would learn later, was Sophia. When she stopped to kneel beside that quiet girl with the charcoal-stained fingers, something about her made the room feel steadier. I didn't know why I kept watching them. Maybe because the girl kept glancing toward the crowd with the seriousness of someone who saw more than she should. Maybe because Sophia's hand rested gently on her shoulder, like she'd learned the right way to anchor a child who trusted no one. My phone buzzed. A message from one of my men outside. Everything clear, all exits stable, no threats detected. Good. But I didn't rely on anyone else's confidence, not even my own security. My instincts told me something was shifting under the surface of the gala. A ripple in the room, a tightening of air. Then it happened. A man across the hall checked his watch. Once, twice, 3 times in 7 minutes. His uniform looked right, but the badge on his chest was clipped differently from the others. His shoes shined too bright for museum security. But before I could track him, chaos began in the softest way possible. A father who had been mingling with donors suddenly froze. His daughter, who had been admiring tapestries not far from us, was no longer beside him, a missing child in a building filled with hundreds of people. His face broke apart in a way that made every parent in the room understand instantly. This wasn't a case of wandering off. The guards tried to stay calm as they checked security footage. But calm only lasted seconds. The girl had vanished into the only part of the gallery without camera coverage. Sophia rushed toward the main hall, her eyes scanning every child in the program. When she reached Emma, the girl didn't say anything. She just dropped her sketch pad. Pages scattered across the floor like feathers. She ran to the glass partition and pressed her hand against it. That's when I walked closer. She looked up at me with eyes too old for her age and held out her drawing. A man in a security uniform staring toward a doorway marked staff only. Sharp lines. Precise angles. She had drawn him minutes before he disappeared. She had seen what none of us saw. She took her, Emma whispered, her voice so soft most would miss it. But not me. I knelt in front of her. "Show me," I said. Her finger tapped the charcoal portrait again. The museum's head of security grabbed his radio, barking orders. But it was already too late. Whoever had taken the girl knew the building's blind spots, knew exactly where cameras didn't reach, knew how to move a child without being seen. I wasn't supposed to get involved. My world was built on silence, shadows, invisible power. But something in that drawing shook me. Something in the girl's eyes made this personal. Sophia moved beside Emma, her hand trembling slightly as she picked up the sketch pad. She stared at the drawing like it held the answer to everything. "She sees things," Sophia whispered to me. "She always sees what others don't." I looked at Sophia then, really looked at her. The way her voice softened when she spoke to Emma. The fear in her eyes for a child who wasn't even hers. And something inside me shifted. Panic spread across the gala as guards blocked exits and scanned the crowd. The father's voice broke as he called for his daughter. Guests whispered, glasses clinking nervously. But in the middle of that storm stood an orphan girl, holding a drawing that told the truth. She tugged my sleeve again, pointing toward the far gallery, a direction no one else had checked yet. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't just a kidnapping, this was a message. And I'd lived too long in the dark not to understand when someone wanted war. I stood, my voice low and steady as I turned to Sophia. "Stay with her," I said. "I'm going to follow her lead." Sophia's eyes locked with mine, full of fear but also trust. Trust I had no right to, not yet. But I took it anyway, because the moment Emma handed me that drawing, I knew I wasn't just dealing with a crime. I was dealing with a child who saw everything. And if I didn't move now, another child would disappear for good. The moment I stepped into the eastern corridor, the noise of the gala dulled behind me. All the laughter, music, and clinking glasses faded into a low, distant echo. What remained was the pounding of my pulse and the soft, steady voice of the orphan girl guiding me. Emma didn't speak in long sentences. She didn't guess. She didn't assume. She pointed. And every place she pointed held truth. Sophia followed close behind us, her breath unsteady but her steps sure. She kept one hand on Emma's shoulder as if grounding her, and maybe grounding herself at the same time. I looked down at the drawing again. That face, that uniform, those eyes. A man pretending to belong. My world was full of people like that. "Victor," Sophia whispered. "Why is she so certain he went this way?" I stopped at the crossroads of two long halls. "Because she saw him," I said, "and she doesn't forget anything." Quote. Emma tugged the sleeve of my jacket and held up her sketchpad again. She flipped to a new page showing a hallway layout, drawn entirely from memory. Her charcoal pencil had captured the shape of a doorway, the angle of a vent, even the reflection of a faint emergency exit light on the glossy floor. "She shouldn't be able to know this," Sophia breathed. "She shouldn't," I said, "but she does." I'd known men with minds like hers. Men who survived by noticing the things everyone else missed. Men who built empires on observation. Men who destroyed them the same way. But never a child. I knelt to Emma again. "Did he take the girl through here?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked ahead and pressed her small hand against a display case. It looked perfectly normal to anyone else, but when I leaned closer, I saw it. A seal had been tampered with. Sophia gasped. "How did she?" "She sees everything," I said again. Just then, the museum's head of security rushed toward us. "Mr. Marchese, please step back," he ordered, though his voice wavered. "We're handling this." Quote, "You're not handling anything," I said, my voice low. "Your cameras missed a kidnapping. Your man is gone. And this little girl saw the truth right under your nose." He stared at Emma, unsure whether to believe us. Emma quietly pointed at the floor beneath the case. I crouched. Fresh scratches marked the metal grate. Someone had removed it and put it back. My chest tightened. They took the missing girl underground. "Move," I told the guard. He hesitated. Now. There was something in my tone that made even trained security obey. With trembling hands, the guard stepped aside as I pulled the grate free. Cold air drifted up from a dark ventilation shaft that angled downward like a throat into darkness. Sophia covered her mouth. "Dear God!" I turned to her. "They planned this. They knew the building. They knew the blind spots. This wasn't random." Sophia clutched Emma closer, her voice shaking. "Victor, what do we do?" I didn't have time to think. I only had seconds to act. I took a deep breath and lowered myself into the shaft. Sophia gasped. "You can't go alone." Quote, "I'm not leaving that child down there," I said. "Keep Emma with you. Don't let her out of your sight." Emma's hand reached toward me. Her small fingers curled around mine for 1 second. Silent, certain, trusting. In that moment, something inside me broke open. I had spent years hiding from the softness in the world. But here, in a dark museum tunnel, an orphan girl I had known for less than an hour trusted me more than men who'd spent a decade earning it. "I'll come back," I said to her. And then I let go. The shaft was tight and steep, the metal cold beneath my palms. My suit snagged against bolts and joints, and the air smelled like dust and old stone. My flashlight beam cut through the dark, revealing turns and bends that only someone familiar with the building would know how to navigate. Voices echoed faintly from below. 2 men. Talking, planning. My heartbeat slowed, not from fear, but from focus. I had been in darker places than this. I had fought in tighter spaces. I knew how to move without sound. But as I crept deeper, a child's voice drifted up the corridor. "Hello, is someone there?" My chest tightened. It was the missing girl. She sounded confused, not terrified, yet. They had tricked her, convinced her her father needed her. Manipulation was more dangerous than fear. The 2 men's voices hardened into something sharper. Time was running out. I pressed myself against the wall, listening. The heavier man spoke with an Eastern European accent, giving orders. The other, the fake guard, sounded nervous. Good. Nervous men made mistakes. From somewhere far above, faint and muffled, I heard Sophia's voice calling my name through the vent. It pushed me forward. I stepped into the faint glow of a maintenance light. The men froze. I lifted my flashlight and aimed the beam straight into their faces. "Let the girl go," I said. "Or the only way you're leaving this building is in cuffs or a bag." They reacted fast, but I reacted faster. The guard reached for his gun. I threw the flashlight at his face. He stumbled and I was already on him. The metal clattered across the floor as we slammed into the wall. The second man lunged, but I spun the guard into him, using their own weight against them. The corridor shook with the force of the struggle. The little girl screamed. Then, a voice cut through the dark. "Victor!" Sophia. She was in the shaft behind me, and everything became a race against time. Sophia's voice echoed down the metal shaft, sharp with fear but steady enough to guide me. It pulled me back into focus, cutting through the chaos, shaking the maintenance corridor. I shoved the first man against the wall just long enough to see Sophia slide out of the shaft, breathless and covered in dust, but refusing to stay behind. "What are you doing here?" I snapped. Her eyes locked onto mine. "I wasn't letting you face this alone." Before I could answer, the little girl whimpered from behind a stack of equipment. I saw her small knees pulled tight to her chest, her eyes wide, as she stared at the 2 men wrestling to escape my grip. "You're safe," I told her, my voice gentler than I expected. "I'm getting you out." But one of the kidnappers had recovered faster than I predicted. He lunged forward, grabbing the fallen gun from the floor and aiming it at Sophia. My stomach dropped. I didn't think. My body moved before my mind could catch up. I slammed into him, forcing his arm upward as the shot fired into the ceiling. Dust rained down like gray snow. The recoil made him stumble back, and I used the moment to drive my fist into his ribs. He let out a sharp grunt and collapsed. The second man, the one with the accent, started backing away toward a dark exit door. His intentions were clear: flee, regroup, and finish the job later. He didn't care if he left his partner behind. He didn't care about the girl. Men like him never did. "Stop," I warned. He didn't. He bolted, and I had a choice: chase him down, or get Sophia and the girl out safely. I turned to Sophia first. "Take her," I said, grabbing the frightened child and placing her gently in Sophia's arms. "Keep talking to her. Don't let her look around." Sophia nodded, her hands shaking but strong as she held the little girl tight. Her voice softened instantly. "Sweetheart, we're taking you to your daddy. You're okay, you're okay." Hearing her say it broke something inside me, because for the first time in a long time I wanted to believe it too. I knelt beside the unconscious guard and kicked the gun far down the corridor. He wasn't waking anytime soon. My knuckles throbbed, and I felt blood trickle down my wrist. I didn't care. I turned back toward the shaft. Let's move. We don't have long. Sophia hesitated. Victor, what if he comes back? He won't get near you, I said. Not while I'm here. Her eyes searched mine. Fearful, grateful, trusting. That trust hit me harder than the fight had. We made our way back to the shaft, but I knew one thing instantly. Sophia couldn't climb with the child in her arms. I'll go first, I told her, then I'll pull her up. She nodded, swallowing her fear. The little girl clung to her like she'd known her forever. I climbed fast, ignoring the tearing sound of my suit and the pain in my shoulder. When I reached the top, 2 guards were waiting, their faces pale with relief. She's here, I called. Pull her up carefully. Quote, Sophia pushed the girl into the vent. Her small hands reached for mine. I lifted her out and into the arms of paramedics waiting nearby. Her father's shout broke the silence as he rushed forward, pulling her into the tightest embrace I'd ever seen. Then Sophia climbed up next, her fingers trembling as I reached down and pulled her the rest of the way. When she stood on solid ground, her breath broke in a shaky exhale. You did it, she whispered. You're the reason we found her, I said. You and Emma. Just saying Emma's name made me turn instinctively, searching for her. She stood a few feet away, watching everything with those calm, knowing eyes that didn't belong to an 8-year-old. She walked up to me slowly and held out her sketch pad. A blank page, a charcoal pencil. She wanted me to draw. I raised an eyebrow. You want me to draw you a picture? She nodded once. Sophia smiled through her exhaustion. She only asks that when she respects someone. I wasn't sure I deserved that, but I knelt on the floor and began drawing. My charcoal lines were rough, nothing like her beautiful work. But she didn't care about perfection. She cared about truth. So I drew her. The quiet power in her eyes, the bravery in her posture, the way she held the world without letting it crush her. When I handed the sketch back to her, she studied it carefully, then pressed the paper to her chest with a small nod. Approval, acceptance, trust. Sophia touched my arm. Victor, she whispered, thank you. But before I could answer, the museum staff began moving around us, talking about statements, police reports, evidence. The father and daughter cried together in a corner. Paramedics checked everyone for injuries. Officers whispered updates into radios. And there, in the middle of the chaos, Emma tugged Sophia's sleeve again. She pointed toward the far exit doors. The doors the kidnapper had escaped through. Sophia looked at me, fear flickering in her eyes. Victor, is this over? I followed Emma's gaze into the dim hallway beyond. No, I said quietly. It's just beginning. I didn't sleep the night after the museum incident. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the little girl calling into the dark for her father. Every time I breathed in, I smelled dust from the ventilation shaft. Every time I let myself think too long, I saw Emma's eyes, calm, observant, and far too old for a child. The police wrapped up their questioning. The news spread across the city. People praised the museum's security response. They thanked law enforcement. They thanked the staff. No one thanked the quiet girl who drew the truth. No one thanked the woman who climbed into a vent to rescue a stranger. But I remembered, because I had been there. I had seen who truly saved that child. And I couldn't get either of them out of my mind. 2 days later, I returned to the museum with my daughter. She ran excitedly through the medieval manuscript exhibit, chattering about gold leaf and fancy handwriting. She was sunshine in motion. I tried to stay present for her, but my attention kept drifting. Then I saw her. Sophia. She was standing in the educational wing with stacks of papers under her arm, organizing supplies, talking gently to students. Her presence felt like quiet warmth after a long night. She turned when she sensed me, and I swear something in her expression softened. Victor, she said, walking over. I wasn't sure we'd see you again so soon. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. She smiled, small and genuine. How's your shoulder? Sore. But I'll live. Her eyes flicked to my daughter. She looks happy. She is, I said, thanks to you. Sophia shook her head. No. Thanks to you. But before I could answer, a small hand tugged her sleeve. Emma. Her sketch pad was pressed to her chest, her fingers smudged with charcoal as always. She looked at me the way she had in the museum basement, steady, unblinking, seeing everything I didn't say. I crouched down. "Hey, little artist." She opened her sketch pad and flipped to a new page, a drawing of me, lifting the kidnapped girl out of the vent. My expression tired, protective, and more vulnerable than I'd realized she had seen. Sophia gasped softly, "Emma, this is beautiful." Emma didn't look at Sophia. She watched me, waiting. "Thank you," I said quietly. "You captured the moment better than any photograph could." She nodded once, then did something unexpected. She pointed at me, then at Sophia, then at her own drawing. It took me a second to understand. She was telling a story without words. "You want me and Sophia together in this?" I asked. She nodded. Sophia blushed. "Emma, that's not—" But Emma was already flipping to another page, a drawing of the three of us standing near the museum entrance, my daughter beside Emma, Sophia beside me. Like a family, like something whole. The breath left my chest. Sophia knelt and touched Emma's shoulder. "Sweetheart, why this?" Quote, Emma wrote a single charcoal word beneath the drawing. "Home." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. She wiped them quickly, embarrassed, but I saw everything she tried to hide. The longing, the fear, the hope. "I'm trying to foster her," she whispered to me, voice trembling. "She deserves stability, real stability. But the process is slow, difficult." "Does she want to stay with you?" I asked. Sophia nodded. She hasn't said it out loud, but she says it in every way she knows how. Emma reached for her hand, their fingers intertwined naturally, like they'd been connected forever. I felt something heavy shift inside me. I had spent years building walls around my world, my heart, my daughter. I believed safety came from distance, from power, from control. But standing there watching Sophia hold Emma's hand, I realized something simple. Safety can also come from people, the right people. Without thinking, I said, "I can help." Sophia looked startled. "Victor, foster care doesn't work like your world does." "I know," I said gently, "but paperwork can get lost. Or found. Processes can move faster. Or slower. Doors can open." Her eyes widened as she understood what I meant. "Why would you do that for us?" she whispered. For the first time since the gala, I let the truth reach the surface. "Because she saved that child," I said, nodding toward Emma. "Because you risked everything to go after her. And because—" I stopped, swallowing hard. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." Sophia's breath caught. Emma looked between us, as if confirming what she already knew. My daughter ran over at that moment and threw her arms around Emma, asking if she could see her new drawings. The girls sat on the floor together, flipping through pages of charcoal faces and museum hallways. Their laughter filled the room. Sophia stepped closer to me, her shoulder brushing mine. "Victor," she whispered, "your world is dangerous." "So is yours," I said softly. "Children fall through cracks every day, but you still jump in and pull them out. You think that's not dangerous?" Her eyes softened. "And what about you?" I looked at her fully then, no walls left between us. "I think I want to live in a world where you and Emma exist," I said. "A world where my daughter can have people like you around her." Her lips parted just slightly, breath trembling. "Are you saying this can be something?" "Yes," I answered, "if you want it to be." She didn't respond with words. She took my hand. Her fingers laced with mine perfectly, as if we'd been reaching for each other long before we ever met. And Emma, wise beyond her years, looked up at us with a knowing smile and drew a final line under the picture she'd made. 3 figures beneath the museum lights, a family, a beginning, a home, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, I was allowed to have one too.